Hey there, multi-prep teachers. You know how professional development never seems to quite get to what we need? It's like, great idea, but how do I make this work when I have 3+ preps to juggle? That's exactly why I created the Simplify Your Preps Collective. It's a free Facebook group built just for teachers like you, where we share tips, resources, and real talk about making multi-prep teaching less overwhelming and more doable. Sound like your kind of space? Head to kristenmasick.com/collective and join us today. Let's simplify together. One of the things I don't think people realize about being a multiple prep teacher is that it's not just about the number of classes. It's the mental load of shifting gears all day, class period to class period, and trying to stay on top of it all, staying organized, and just doing your job as a teacher. So in today's episode, we're going to be going over a few ideas to help you lessen the mental load and to help you stay organized as a multiple prep teacher. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. The first idea we are going to be talking about is batch planning. Now, there's a couple of different angles to look at batch planning. The idea behind batch planning is that you're going to be doing similar tasks so that you are not having to switch from one thing to another. If you have an intro, an intermediate, and an advanced course, are there things or some similarities within units that you might be able to plan at the same time? Batching all of your assessments at once so that you have them ready, even if you're not teaching them at the same time, you're having them just being prepared all at the same time. So those are some ideas that you can do when it comes to batching. The next is to use templates for repetitive tasks. We're going to go back to that batching, and the last thing I was talking about was assessments. Now you can actually have the same assessment for all of your classes, for all of your units. You have permission to do that. And how you would do that is that you would create some sort of template or rubric that can just be shifted slightly, as far as maybe the rubric stays the same, or maybe you have a choice board that stays the same no matter what unit, no matter what class your students are in. These are the options that they have, and then all you do is switch out the prompt. That can be as simple as it needs to be. You can also use templates anytime that you are planning for things, to protocols or strategies that you're using over and over and over again. Then you're not making it super specific to the topic that you're talking about, but it can be used over again. And then you can even get into using templates for emails and other things that you do often. The next is to have a daily shutdown routine. And I've been working on this a lot more recently, and I actually named mine the daily dismissal, and I take about 5 minutes at the end of my workday and I just reflect on things that have gone well, what I'm grateful for. And honestly, it's like 5 different things. They each take a minute. And what it does is I am documenting what I worked on, what I finished, and then where I'm going to pick up the next day. It allows me to declutter my brain before heading home so that I can just leave everything, as much as I can, at home and not have to worry about it when I get home to my kiddos. The next is to streamline your class prep by using tools. I love using Google Drive to organize lesson plans and schedules I'm really big into spreadsheets and using all of those and having systems to manage all of that. Part of the reason I really like Google Drive is that now it's just super searchable. So even if you are not an inherently organized person, or if you try to aspire to be an organized person, but it's still not working super great, you can search for things very easily, because even in the search bar, you can find it searches through your documents itself. So it doesn't even have to be named the correct thing. So I love having just everything. I will say keep it in one place. Like Google Drive I remember I had like 12 different flash drives back in the day, because at one point I dropped my portable hard drive, and so then I didn't trust anything. So I had no idea what everything or where anything was, which just compounded and made things a little bit harder. But that's a side note. So streamline your class prep with some tools. Another thought that you can do is you could set up a weekly flow. So perhaps you are going to be doing different things for different days of the week. And this can still work for the block. For example, my husband, every single Monday, which happens to also be our early out days, he is doing lectures. Instead of like sprinkling lectures throughout, he still does some just-in-time teaching, but he spends his entire class period on Monday lecturing, and then the students are in the shop for the rest of the week. So he knows what's coming on Monday. They know what's coming on Monday. It helps the mental load as far as knowing what to prepare, is that he doesn't really have to prepare any sort of instruction on the rest of the days of the week, because he's already planned out that Monday is going to be lecture day. So you could do that with lab days. You could do that for students doing group work. You could have assessments. You could think about when you are going to be introducing new materials, and maybe that works for you, that you are going to be doing a weekly flow according to the days. I also like having a daily flow as far as your class period flow to make it super predictable. And I have an episode 166 that goes into more depth on how to actually chunk your class periods, specifically if you are on the block schedule, but it will work for any length of class period. Then the next is going to be to automate or delegate tasks. Now, I will say I wish that I had a TA at any given time. Every once in a while, I'd get a student TA, but they were students, and so they really couldn't do much. But to have an adult TA, I feel like that would be so great, especially as a multiple prep teacher. I feel like everyone needs one, because there are some things that you can just get off of your plate as long as you have someone to give it to. I do want to let you know that I have been using AI as a teacher assistant lately, and I'm going to be getting into more of that in the next few weeks. But it has been so great to just get rid of a lot of my tasks and let the AI do things for me that I would give to a TA if I had a teacher's assistant. So automate or delegate tasks is the next one. The next suggestion would be to plan for flex days. So I would recommend that you plan for flex days at the end of any unit, just in case you need to take a little bit longer to do some research. But the other thing you can do with a flex day is you can plan to have minimal instruction so that you can focus on independent work. This does work really well depending on how you've structured your assessments, but I also really liked to use flex days. They were like a breather, but those were also the days that I could conference with students and see how they were doing. It didn't require a lot of prep on my part, but it allowed me to still be helping students, giving them feedback, and then also they a lot of times really enjoyed having the breather as well, to have that extra time to work on any big projects. Next, we are going to be going to combining your protocols whenever possible. This is one of my favorite strategies. If you've got a protocol that you're setting up for, or a teaching strategy that you're setting up for, do it on the same day, same class periods, whenever possible. So for example, if you are going to be doing a fishbowl and you're doing the fishbowl where you've got your classroom set up, so you have like the two circles, the inside and the outside. And the basic idea is that students are going to be having discussions and asking questions, and they switch. But you could have your students switch and like rearrange the furniture every single class period. But that does take time, and more often than not, I was the one who was rearranging the furniture and not the students. The way to save time would be you would have your classroom set up that way for every single class period, and then you would just switch out what the students were discussing. Your big prep as far as moving the desks wouldn't be an issue from class period to class period. It's not like you're changing your labs. Then that's the other thing. Have your lab days whenever possible on the same days. If you are going to be rearranging or going to a different space, that is another way to combine those protocols or teaching strategies whenever possible. The next idea is to set clear boundaries. This is when you are going to be checking your email, when you're going to stop working, especially if you are working in the evening after school, and then really make it a habit or a goal to stick to those. Whether you need to set an alarm on your phone or to remind yourself, or kind of have an accountability partner. Maybe you have a spouse or a child who reminds you that, hey, it's time. That will prevent mental burnout and allow you to still have that personal time so that you can keep going and you can be refreshed for your students every day. And then the final bit of advice would be look at one subject or class at a time. It is going to be more helpful for you in a prep period or a planning time to not worry about all of your preps and just focus on one. You'll be able to really drill down and get the most out of it rather than task switching. If you're batching, that's one thing, but if you're task switching and you are doing 5 minutes for this class period and 5 minutes for that class period and 10 minutes for this period, and they're kind of all over the place and it's not related, but you're just trying to get a bunch of things checked off of your to-do list, that is going to be much more difficult than to group your items together that at first are similar, like we talked about in batching, and then secondly, that all have to do with the same class period so that you can just really focus and give that full attention to one task, and that will also help prevent your overwhelm and increase your efficiency. If you found today's episode helpful, it could be for others. Make sure that you share it with a colleague or shout me out on Instagram, is where I hang out the most, at Kristen Masick, KHRISTENMASSIC. Until next week.